In the top stories, police investigate the discovery of a body in Nevis. Private sector vaccine initiative makes progress in Jamaica. And Hurricane Ida kills one and knocks out power across New Orleans. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Monday, 30th August 2021. I'm your presenter, Shanique Harvey. Nationally, the police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the discovery of a body in Nevis on Sunday. The deceased was identified as 39-year-old Wilson Dorr of Bath Village. More information will be given in a subsequent report as details become available. A new executive body of the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association has been elected. The group was elected at the SKNFA Ordinary Congress held on Sunday. Andre Huey, media consultant to the SKNFA, has more.
Football administration in St. Kitts Nevis has a new president and executive. Former St. Kitts Nevis national player Atiba Harris was on Sunday elected president of the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association at the 2021 SKNFA Ordinary Congress held at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort. Majority of the members of his team that contested the elections were also elected on the new executive. Of the 26 votes in tow, Mr. Harris garnered 15 votes while his challenger Don Grant got 11 votes. Mr. Grant served as first vice president in the outgoing SKNFA executive. In his first address as president, Mr. Harris congratulated his fellow executive members and promised to raise the standard of football in St. Kitts Nevis.
It's been a long process. Thank the full slate, Sean White, Cuthbert Keynes, Javine Blanchett, Phil Cooper, Mr. Bergen, Ernest Queely, Patricia Claxton, Arlene, and Mr. Pinney. Looking forward to raising the standard of football here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's going to be with inclusiveness, equality, fairness, all across the board, both in St. Kitts and Nevis. Whatever is happening in St. Kitts should be happening in Nevis as well. And I'm looking forward to everybody's support going forward. So thank you guys again for electing us, and we are ready to work.
Mr. Harris was congratulated by outgoing President Anthony Johnson, who during the Congress spoke of the accomplishments of the association under his tenure.
St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots player Mikhail Lewis has been forced to leave the 2021 Hero Caribbean Premier League, or CPL, following a breach of the tournament operating protocols, and will take no further part in this year's tournament. In a press release issued on Sunday, the Hero CPL outlined the protocol breach, stating, quote, "The tournament bubble will be maintained for the entire duration of the tournament, and no one from outside the bubble will be allowed in at any of the bubble locations. Conversely, no one from inside the bubble will be allowed out of the main bubble areas. Persons who break these rules will be expelled from the tournament, no exceptions," end quote. In response to the incident, Hero CPL's tournament operations director Michael Hall said, quote, "Following the receipt of some tragic news about a close friend, the player took the unfortunate and ill-advised decision to leave the hotel bubble without permission. While the league is sympathetic about the circumstances which led to the player's decision, it cannot allow the integrity of its COVID-secure bubble to be compromised," end quote. Regionally, as the Ministry of Health in Jamaica seeks to expand access to COVID-19 vaccinations across various demographics, the private sector vaccine initiative has proven to be one of the more successful strategies for large-scale inoculations. More in the CVM Live news report.
With COVID-19 cases on the rise, in a bid to bolster inoculation, the private sector vaccine initiative, which took place on Thursday, sought to have at least 700 persons of the Sagicor group receive the one-dose Johnson & Johnson. Safri Brown, who is project lead at the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, says individuals must trust the science and be cognizant that people are actually dying from the virus. She notes the sooner the population reaches full inoculation, the faster Jamaica gets back to normal.
We have to be clear about what the data is showing. We know that 1,400 Jamaicans have already passed away as a result of COVID. We don't want anybody else to die unnecessarily, so we really do hope as many people come and get vaccinated to protect themselves, protect their loved ones, protect their communities. And the quicker that we all get vaccinated is the quicker we can get our lives back.
While there were concerns raised as it relates to efficacy of the Johnson & Johnson vaccines, when asked, Ms. Brown noted that all vaccines provided are approved by the Health Ministry.
What we do know is that all the vaccines that we provide are approved by the World Health Organization for emergency use, and they've been approved by the Ministry of Health. The Johnson & Johnson is a really good vaccine because it allows people who would be difficult to get to come back a second time to get their vaccine and be fully vaccinated off of one dose.
President and CEO of Sagicor Group, Chris Zaka, says he's pleased that his organization is contributing towards reaching herd immunity.
We're administering the Johnson & Johnson, which is one and done, so our team will be fully vaccinated, a large number of our team, in a matter of weeks. And it's just great that first of all, that Sagicor is doing this for our team. I mean, it makes me feel good as CEO, I must tell you. But it's important for the nation also, and we are just pleased and excited that we can play our part.
Javine McLean, CVM Live.
In St. Lucia, bus operators are speaking out in the wake of the death of a colleague from COVID-19 and reports of a number of infections in the transportation sector. 4 routes have been impacted by the nationwide rise in cases. More in this HTS News report.
Public transportation has been called the driving force of the island's economic stability. However, there are calls for tighter pandemic regulations after the death of a bus driver and 5 operators stricken by the virus. Drivers are demanding their passengers do the right thing against the backdrop of rising infections.
This bus, as far as you can see, the person have to be sanitized, fully masked down. If not, you're not boarding that bus. We just have to be concerned of ourselves and to protect others, to follow the protocol and do what we're supposed to do.
What do you think about the increased vaccination?
Well, it's because of our disobedience, people not listening. But I am saying to you here, our bus drivers, we're listening. If you don't sanitize, you don't have your fully mask, as what we're doing there right now. This is serious time. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're not boarding that bus.
Others have called for a decline in the capacity load on public buses.
All drivers have to protect themselves when they get those COVID and things like that. And the customers too, always wear their mask before they go board their van. And else, I declare to myself, I want all buses to carry 10 people.
The spiraling numbers have left minibus operators cautioning their unvaccinated colleagues to get the jab before it's too late.
All you have to do is just have to start to get vaccinated. And if all of the drivers go and get vaccinated and they sanitize the bus as usual as possible, I think things will be okay for us.
And especially the virus, when you say the reduction in the numbers, do you think we should go back to that?
Well, if it's possible, and the government has to do it, it has to do it. As long as it's possible, we have to go that way.
The confirmation of one operator succumbing to COVID-19 has also elicited calls for commuters to play their part to protect drivers as well.
That's so sad, eh? Well, it's the people again. We people again. You know what I mean? We always feel that, you know what I mean, we love our own self. You know what I mean? So nobody wants, some people want to follow protocol, some don't want to follow. A lot of vehicles, every check it now, the passengers, a lot of them, they board in the vehicle, they're not wearing masks, they're not sanitizing, I don't know why. You know what I mean? People aren't really taking that serious. So unless if 20, 50 or 100 or maybe 1,000 die, then everybody going to check themselves that's what's really going on in this island or what's going on around the world. I don't know what to say again, but you know what I mean? Just love of our own self causing all these things just keep happening, you know? Because we could do better than that. We could do better than that.
As the island's numbers skyrocket, all sectors are being monitored to ensure that loopholes and weaknesses are tightened in the continued fight against the spread of COVID-19. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
Internationally, Hurricane Ida has made landfall as one of the most powerful storms ever to hit the United States. The Category 4 storm brought fierce winds, torrential downpours, and knocked out power to New Orleans in Louisiana, but has since weakened. Al Jazeera's Phil Lavelle reports.
They were warned to prepare, but how do you prepare for this? Water pouring through this home, and all the owner can do is helplessly watch a live feed on camera. Hurricane Ida has well and truly arrived now, bringing 240-kilometre-an-hour winds and chaos to Louisiana.
The storm is a life-threatening storm.
The big one hits the Big Easy. 16 years to the day since Katrina arrived in New Orleans, killing more than 1,800 people and causing billions of dollars worth of damage. Now a storm that hit land with even more power. To give an idea, that is a picnic table between those poles, the water just pouring over the top. Up in the skies, this flight taking us into the eye of the storm. It is calm up there, but what a difference on the ground. Hurricane Ida's path is taking her around the western side of New Orleans, which means this city is being hit by the winds from the eastern side of the storm, and that is not a place you want to be in the midst of a Category 4 hurricane, because those eastern winds tend to be stronger, they tend to be more powerful and cause much more devastation, and the risks here are huge. Everything from debris flying through the air to fences coming loose and hitting people to downed power lines. And that's before we even get onto the subject of the water, the flooding from the rain and those storm surges. Which is what we saw with Hurricane Katrina, where 80% of this city ended up submerged. New Orleans told to evacuate in case this happened again. In central areas, it was voluntary.
Governor Edwards, no friend, has characterized it as one of the strongest hurricanes, the strongest in Louisiana history since 1850. And its devastation is likely to be immense. We shouldn't kid ourselves.
In lower lying areas, it was mandatory, and still some stayed.
I would say half the neighborhood is staying and the other half is evacuated. So it's more just to kind of be here to help.
As the storm heads north, it'll be hours before the extent of the devastation becomes clear. Most are hunkering down, but some refuse. The hurricanes may cause damage and death, but in true style, New Orleans refuses to give in.
As the COVID-19 death toll exceeds 1,000 in Australia, the government is preparing to switch its approach. Authorities have dispensed plans to crush the virus and say that Australians will have to learn with it. More in this Reuters report.
As the COVID death toll crosses 1,000 in Australia, the government is preparing to switch its approach. Up until now, the country has implemented fortress-style controls, closing borders and placing half the population in lockdown. But authorities have dispensed with plans to crush the virus and say that Australians have to learn to live with it. Australia is making that decision even as infections rise. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian issued the grim warning that October will be the worst month for the state's intensive care units.
Our hospital system is under pressure. Will we need to do things differently? Of course we will. Will we need to manage things differently? We're in the middle of a pandemic, of course. But will we cope? Of course we will.
Australia's early success quelling the virus has been replaced with public frustration at a delayed vaccine rollout. Just over 33% of those aged 16 and older have received 2 vaccine doses, well below most comparable countries. As the wary nation reopens, health experts have cautioned that mask wearing needs to continue. Tourism operators have joined the chorus of mounting anger at the government, pointing to the devastating impact that the restrictions have had on their industry. In the state of Queensland, home to the Great Barrier Reef, Daniel Schwind, head of Queensland's Tourism Council, says local tour operators are struggling. He estimates the state is losing $5 billion a year from international tourism, and as much as $730 million a month from other parts of the country.
We've had cyclones and floods and bushfires and pretty much everything else that you can throw at us, but we've always overcome. But this one is the most profound disruption that we've ever faced because, most importantly, there is no immediate end in sight.
Meanwhile, business owners in Sydney, which has been the epicentre of the Delta outbreak, are still grappling with a loss to the bottom line after 3 months of restrictions.
And now for the weather. Present weather shows fair skies with a dust haze. Winds are northeast at 3 to 7 miles per hour, becoming variable or calm at times. Seas are 1 to 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. Weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis today will be partly cloudy to cloudy with a moderate or 60% chance of showers. And for tonight, partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Sunset for today will be at 6:27 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow will be at 5:56 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. To join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your presenter, Shanique Harvey.